The Philosophy of Composition, an essay by Edgar Allan Poe, was first published in Graham's magazine in 1846, a year after his poem The Raven had catapulted him to fame. In this essay, Poe provides insights into the process he claims to have followed while writing the poem. Through his essay, Poe elucidates his aesthetic principles, emphasizing the importance of a poem's length, the achievement of a unity of effect, and the interconnectedness of its elements. He also shares his thoughts on beauty in poetry and offers commentary on versification. Poe begins by mentioning the novelist William Godwin, who wrote Caleb Williams in reverse order, starting with a tangled situation and then revealing how the protagonist arrived there. Poe suggests that, prior to embarking on the act of writing, a writer must conceive the outcome or denouement of the plot, enabling the creation of a causal connection between events. When Poe himself writes, he first determines the desired effect he wishes to evoke, and then he carefully selects the incidents and tone that are most conducive to achieving that effect. According to Poe, many writers are reluctant to divulge their creative process because they prefer the public to believe that their work is born out of a kind of inspired frenzy. Others simply forget the details of their own creative activities. Poe asserts that he remembers his process and is willing to reveal it. Drawing upon The Raven as an example, he explains that a poem is not the result of mere accident or intuition, but rather a precise process akin to solving a mathematical problem. Poe reveals that the genesis of The Raven was his intention to write a poem that would captivate both popular and critical audiences. He then deliberated on its length, asserting that a poem should be concise to evoke intense emotions, and that it should be able to be read in a single sitting. Otherwise, the unity of impression would be compromised, thereby weakening the intended effect. After careful consideration, Poe concluded that the poem should consist of approximately 100 lines. After determining the length, province, and tone of his poem, Poe turned his attention to selecting the impression or effect he wanted to convey, keeping in mind his aim for it to be universally appreciated. He posited that contemplating beauty through poetry evokes a profound and pure elevation of the soul. While truth satisfies the intellect and passion fulfills the heart, Poe asserted that beauty is the exclusive and rightful realm of poetry. Poe then contemplated which tone would best embody the highest manifestation of beauty, and he concluded that it was sadness or melancholy. With the dimensions of length, province, and tone established, the next step for Poe was to find a key element around which to structure the poem. He considered the literary device of a refrain, a repeated word or phrase, and argued that such repetition provides pleasure to the reader. However, Poe believed that the effect would be heightened if the meaning of the repeated word changed with each appearance. Thus, he determined that the refrain should be brief and settled upon a single word. To ensure the sonorous impact of the refrain, which would appear at the end of each stanza, Poe decided that a combination of the long O sound and the consonant R would be most effective. He found the word nevermore to possess the desired melancholic qualities and sound. Now faced with justifying the repetition of this word, Poe acknowledged the difficulty of a human character repeating it multiple times. As a solution, he introduced an animal to fulfill this role, ultimately selecting a raven as it suited the poem's tone. Continuing his creative process, Poe pondered the question of the most melancholy topic, to which he found the answer to be death. He emphasized that death becomes most poetic when intertwined with beauty. Poe unequivocally proclaimed that the death of a beautiful woman is unquestionably the most poetic topic in the world, and the most fitting speaker on this subject would undoubtedly be a bereaved lover. With these considerations in mind, Poe proceeded to contemplate how to combine the chosen topic of his poem with the refrain, forming a cohesive and resonant composition. A fitting solution arose. The refrain would serve as the raven's response to the lover's inquiries, causing the lover to grow increasingly frantic in his quest for answers. Poe carefully varied the context of each question, gradually intensifying the unsettling nature of the raven's replies until reaching the climactic moment that reveals the lover's profound sorrow. Interestingly, Poe reveals that he actually wrote this climax first, allowing him to build the escalating questions of the lover and establish the appropriate meter and rhythm. Moving on, Poe delves into the formal elements of meter and rhyme. He explains that each verse consists of units known as feet, with each foot composed of a long syllable followed by a short one. Some verses contain 8 feet, others 7.5, and still others 3.5. While these individual meters have been employed previously, The poem's originality lies in their skillful combination. Poe highlights the significance of rhyme and alliteration in achieving the desired effect. The next consideration was the selection of a setting in which the lover and the raven would meet. Poe concluded that an enclosed space, such as the lover's chamber, would enhance the desired effect as it envelopes the lover in the memories of his beloved. Additionally, the sound of the bird's flapping wings echoes like someone, perhaps the spirit of the lover himself, knocking at the door. Poe chose to place the poem on a stormy night, providing a reason for the raven's entry into the room and creating a stark contrast between the interior and the outside world. The poem commences with a whimsical, almost amusing tone, with a bird arriving in a lover's room and perching upon a bust of the goddess Pallas. However, as the raven continues to respond with the word nevermore to the lover's questions, the tone gradually shifts towards a more somber and serious demeanor. The poem steadily builds towards its conclusion, wherein the lover inquires whether he will be reunited with his lady in another life, only to receive the same disheartening answer. Poe asserts that his poem is grounded within the boundaries of reality, yet he artfully incorporates an evocative hint of the supernatural, adding depth and richness to the composition. In the concluding verses, the lover implores the raven to withdraw its beak from his heart. Poe emphasizes that it is at this juncture that the reader will grasp the symbolic nature of the raven. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did and be sure to subscribe. Thank you.